Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the CHALL, and today Chall Chats Theme Parks. So we are here with Ryan Eldredge, the Public Relations and Communications Manager for Dorney Park. Ryan, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for reaching out. It's a privilege to talk to you across the pond, and I'm glad you share our enthusiasm about roller coasters and the Iron Menace.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to this project opening in 2024. So firstly then, obviously this is a Bologram Mabillard Dive Coaster. It's the Northeast first dive coaster in ever. What made the decision to bring in a Bologram Mabillard Dive Coaster? Because there's no secret that there were previous plans that were around 2020, 2021. What made the decision to go with the Bologram Mabillard and the situation behind the change in plans?
So I know you're referencing the out and back that we had originally planned, which was really conceptualized pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. So that a lot of the work on that in terms of getting the proper approvals from our township, which is South Whitehall here in Pennsylvania, we did a lot of that in 2018 and 2019. So the project would have moved forward in 2020, but then the world kind of shut down. And when we came out of it, we had a new leadership structure. Things had shifted dynamically from a business climate. And I think maybe the biggest thing that happened was that we had a new general manager and new vice president, Jessica Naderman, who had come to us from Schlitterbahn. And with that came a lot of other department heads changing. And the group that's here now, which also includes myself, we felt very passionately that we needed to find a ride that represented the Lehigh Valley. And for us, and it's not very different from where you're at either, but there are areas, specifically in the Northeast, that have a very rich industrial history. The Lehigh Valley is one of those. We really relied on steel manufacturing in the early 1900s. And so a lot of remnants of that industry, because it doesn't thrive anymore here, still exist, and you can still see a lot of it, whether it's in Bethlehem or Allentown or elsewhere, even some of the surrounding communities. So we felt really passionately that not only did we need to move into dynamic theming, but we needed to have a ride that was representative of something that felt like home. Because we think Dorney Park is kind of like when you come to grandma's. It's like home. The furniture may change a little bit, but it still feels, eclectic or neighborly, right? So when we started looking at some of the manufacturers that we had basically said, here's the projects, here is the plot, and we want something that's going to draw eyeballs from 78, which is a major highway here, and we want something that's going to be a game changer in the Northeast. And B&M had come to us with this idea of a dive coaster, and when we started getting the elements of theming, steel just made so much more sense than wood. And with that, we kind of started to work with our director of creative development, Ken Parks, who's with Cedar Fair. And he also felt very strongly that we should lean into like those rich industrial roots, which have elements of kind of suspense and creepy now that it's a lot of these buildings have sat dilapidated for 100 years, but then also leading into like that rich pride that we have in the Northeast. And we think that this taps into both those things. So looking at the footprint, knowing what that was going to be, knowing some potential manufacturers who were able to kind of pitch their ideas to us, and then knowing B&M, we have such a great relationship with them here at Dorney Park, whether it's Talon or Hydra specifically are the two that we've worked very closely with them, but also Cedar Fair, a number of rides that B&M has built from the ground up for the company. So we felt very comfortable with them coming in here and being able to work with them, definitely given the history. And so all of it just kind of started to, it's like when you get a ball rolling and you can just kind of start it to feel it going downhill and picking up steam, and by the end it just felt like a home run, and or a goal or whatever you want to call it. And so we just felt that for us this was the right decision, and as time goes on, I feel even more strongly that we're making the right call here with this dive roller coaster.
Absolutely. I think since the original with Oblivion at Alton Towers back in the UK in 1998, I think it's just evolved since. And, without Oblivion, we might not have the Iron Menace that we're going to see next year. Obviously, we know that the main attraction that's been replaced with Iron Menace, obviously the Stinger roller coaster that was formerly known as Invertigo at California's Great America. Historic ride, historic coaster concept by Vekoma back in the day.
Yeah.
What helped make the decision to say goodbye to the Stinger? Was it a case of change of direction for the park in the end? Because obviously it was a few years since the demolishment of Stinger,
Yeah.
to bring in Iron Menace. So was there a factor which helped provide the location for the coaster? Was it an idea of replacing Stinger straight away with this ride, or was there other locations being potentially hinted for the project?
First of all, when Stinger had a number of maintenance issues, which just made it almost impossible to maintain and keep running at a level that our guests expected. So that's why, we made the move away from that specific ride. Quickly thereafter, though, because it was removed in 2017 or after the 2017 season, plans were already moving to utilize that space. And that's for a number of reasons. One, its visibility from the main parking area and the main guest entrance parking area. So where they come to park, literally, if they look out their driver's side window, they see that plot. But then also you can see it very clearly from Hamilton Boulevard, which is the main roadway in Lincoln Avenue, another main roadway, and then 78, which is the major interstate. So once again, I talked about visibility being a critical component, but also um, another reason why we like that area so much is because we want to drive attendance down to some of our larger attractions at the bottom of the park. And so it's always been this desire to put in major or new capital down there. And, unfortunately, for one reason or another, Stinger didn't work and, Laser wasn't working anymore. And so, Possessed, while it drives maybe incremental attendance, wasn't quite the mover that I think we ultimately wanted. So we wanted to get something new down there that can drive people to Steel Force and Revolution and Thunderhawk and Possessed. And we think that not only this ride, but the theming that goes along with it will do that. And so it gets people into the classic Dorney Park area that runs along Cedar Creek. It gets them kind of to move down the hill a little bit. It kind of expands our footprint. And then once again, it just got a very clearly identifiable plot that people are going to see really well. And, we do have a lot of space here. We looked at other spaces, but I think everybody's always felt really strongly that if we can utilize that space properly, it's going to benefit us greatly, not only because of the sight lines, but also because of the creek and being able to utilize some of the more natural scapes. Our nickname actually was the natural spot for a long time. So we want to give folks from specifically Philadelphia, New York, but also other cities around the world, a place where they can come. And we've got that natural greenery and those landscapes and the ducks and the geese and the fish. And this will allow us to kind of highlight that area as well.
Absolutely, and obviously Stinger will always be remembered with the
Rest in
history
peace.
of
Yeah,
rest in peace.
great ride.
Absolutely.
It was a good ride when it was running.
We spoke about theming there. Obviously, theming was crucial to the story of the coaster, and I love storytelling with a roller coaster because it helps immerse you into different settings, and it makes you not feel like you're in a theme park. It makes you feel like you're in a pirate area or a steel mill or whatever kind of area you're going with. So, what were the key features you wanted for this coaster in terms of theme and storyline? What were the kind of key elements of the whole atmosphere of the ride that you wanted to indulge the audience into?
So I think that we saw a lot of that this year with Ghost in the Machine, which was our haunt attraction that was the central focus of it was to tell the backstory of Hiram McTavish, who had attempted to create a steel manufacturer that would rival Bethlehem Steel, which, as many people in the Northeast know, and even other places across the world, they were the central hub for steel manufacturing back in the peak of the early 1900s. So this whole premise, this whole backstory, really lends itself to not only that rustic, artistic, dilapidated steel factory facility manufacturing vibe that really feels inherently Lehigh Valley, but it also allows us to kind of dig into sort of those paranormal or kind of creepy or suspenseful or thrilling elements that really, I think, go well. They pair well with a roller coaster, and it does really well. And I've spent some time in the UK, but I can think of some areas there too where this kind of vibe or environment would suit an area where you've got a lot of that old history, and there is kind of a tinge of kind of creepy or scary to it. And so we wanted to lean into that just as much as we wanted to lean into like the rich pride of it. And so the theming overall of the ride, what we envision is that you will feel like you're stepping into, for us, really I think the vision was to make it feel kind of like Bethlehem Steel, maybe in the early 2000s, before obviously some of the buildings started to erode and it started to make space for some of this new rich economic development in our area, new businesses and things like that. But we can have a vibe of, hey, you're visiting this area that once was a really rich, proud manufacturing area for steel and iron and things like that. And you're stepping into it, and it's been 90 years, so it's got that tinge of creepy. So you're going to see a lot of like rusted steel, and so Ghost in the Machine kind of gave that vibe, right? Where you have like the beat up factory facade that kind of looks like maybe it's coming to life again. And so we envision that for the station for Iron Menace to kind of give it an extension of the facility itself. And then dynamically theming, we want it to feel like a steel yard as we kind of build out towards Possessed. So the idea is that once you cross over the railroad tracks, and at one point Monster would have been on your left, it's either going to get relocated to another park or relocated it somewhere else in Dorney Park. We're still kind of going through some of that because we're making some other adaptable changes there for dining and for shopping, merchandise, and then certainly making space for some other new and exciting things even further down the line than 2024. So once you cross over that Zephyr track, our goal is to at some point, and not all of it goes in one shot, but to make folks, like you said, feel like they're being transported into a steel yard that's been abandoned for 80 to 90 years. So I think it's a really good goal of ours, and we think that it will connect with audiences of all ages, especially those from the Northeast or these areas that had rich industrial roots.
Absolutely. It just ticks all the boxes for what kind of achievement and objective you want with the theme of this coaster.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke about themes. We'll also delve into that a bit more with the idea of forging your own fate. That seems to be the storyline here and the slogan
Yeah.
behind this attraction, how it's promoted and marketed to the public.
Yes.
Was the theme of forging your own fate and this whole Steelman, was that the initial idea from the start? And were there any other themes or storylines considered that we could go into if we could?
Yeah. No. No, I can't say. In the early days, maybe even prior to my involvement, that there weren't other discussions. But as far as I know, this has always been the move. The move was always to lean into, ever since we kind of landed on the B&M dive, to lean into this rich industrial history that has that kind of tinge of the paranormal or the creepy, and then also with the rich industry. So we've never really wavered from that. And like I said, I got involved pretty early. So unless it happened even in like the brainstorming phases, which is something I wouldn't be aware of, this has always been where we wanted to go with this, which I think is great too, because it's got continuity and it's allowed us to build on it even better because we've been so committed to it. And as I said in a previous answer, as we've dug into it, I think we've enjoyed it and appreciated it even more. And I think it's weird. It's like someone lets you take a PK without the keeper, and it's like, just take the shot. It just, by the time we got done, it just seemed so easy. It was like, why didn't we do this 20 years ago with Steel Force? And we've had a lot of those discussions. Like, man, we missed some opportunities, 20, 30 years ago with putting all these rides in, but theming maybe wasn't quite as important as it is to a general audience as it is now. But now we've been pretty steadfast on doing this specific theme.
Absolutely. And the name, Iron Menace. I mean, there's been many great Cedar Fair
Man,
names throughout the years, like Steel Vengeance being a primary example. But
yeah,
Iron Menace just sticks out in an intense forgery way. It creates this massive storyline just from the name itself. Was Iron Menace the original name? And again, was there any other names considered that we could go into today?
so we had a full naming process. I think at one point, I mean, there were probably dozens of names, but we ended up getting it down to maybe a list of a little over 20. And we had a naming committee that was members of our team in Charlotte, Cedar Fair corporate team, and then some folks here at the park level. And we whittled that list of 20 down to, I think, about five, which I'll go through some of. I remember some of them pretty vividly. And then and there were some too that, like, everybody, you're just kind of throwing paint at the wall. And there were some that, we have a good laugh about now, but we got the 20 down to five, and then we took it through. You got to go through trademark and copyright and all that stuff. And once we got through the five, we had two left. It was Iron Inferno or Iron Menace. And dynamically, we felt like Menace connected better to the overall story, and then connected really well with Ghost in the Machine, which was our haunt attraction. So it ended up winning It may have been narrow at the time. I don't recall, but I will say that I loved both those names. So at that point, I didn't really feel like we could go too wrong with it, especially when you're talking about emulating a blast furnace, which is where you dump the iron into, you know, um, a hot fire and you get steel out of it, right? So Inferno would have worked too, but those two names at the end of the day, I think were perfectly situated, and we ended up landing on Menace. So there were other cool names too. I mean, everybody always likes to invoke birds, so there were different names with birds. I'm trying to think. It's like the kingfisher, which is a bird that dives. It's got a really beautiful blue orange plumage. That was, I think, one of the final five. There was another name with iron that escapes me, and then there was a name with steel. And I don't think the steel name slipped. I don't think it made it through trademark anyway. But I remember that the park team was pretty adamant that we didn't move forward with anything steel just because of Steel Force. We felt pretty strongly that it should be iron. And at the end of the day, you work through all that stuff, and I think we had a great team, not just at the park, but also our Cedar Fair corporate team has been fantastic in this, and really allowing us to find our voice regionally. And yeah, Iron Menace, man. And like the more it goes on, it's like the more I become attached to it. I think it's the perfect name for this ride.
Absolutely. And when you've got a ride like Iron Menace, as well as all the other projects going on in the Cedar Fair Parks for 2024, I think it's the perfect start to this kind of new era with the Cedar Fair and the Six Flags merging that's been
Yeah.
happening over the last couple of weeks. So this is like the perfect kind of beginning for Dorney Park under that sort of
Yeah.
merging regime. Um,
It gave us
obviously,
an edge too, not to interrupt you, but like it just gave us an edge where you're coming out, and our announcement was right around the same time as like Top Thrill 2, okay. Good Gravy, okay. And then it's like Iron Menace. It just has a punch, like it packs a punch that I feel like we were the only ones to really do that this year too. So I think it really helped us kind of like set our story and our ride apart, which has been, I think that's awesome.
oh, absolutely. So obviously we know that track has sort of been starting to go vertical at the moment as we're recording
Yes.
this. We know that construction's been picking up nice and quick. We're getting this right for 2024. How excited are you for Dorney's first coaster in 19 years? Such a duck to break, and what a time, and what a type of coaster to do it with.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'll make it personal first. So I grew up around here, and I can remember the days of the late '90s and early 2000s where it was like the Great Coaster Race, and Dorney Park was putting in talent, and Steel Force was the king, and you're adding Hydra, and there's just so much happening in the park. And I remember the buzz and the life that was here when I was coming here as a child, and it was just exciting to be at Dorney Park in the early 2000s. And flash forward, you go 19 years and you don't get anything, and it's kind of like we were the butt of jokes. There's a lot of like, yeah, Dorney Park, but they haven't gotten anything new in 19 years. Or like, I'm not going to go to Dorney Park until they get something new. So to kind of get that monkey off of our back, I think is really special. And once again, I'll kind of I'll stay with the personal. But for me, like I just feel like it's almost like what a lucky idiot. There have been so many people that have been in this role before me that have not had this opportunity, that have not had the chance to oversee an investment like this and to play an integral part in the naming and the theming and have a say in the teaser campaign and the trailers and build off of that into the haunt and now be out here and filming the construction of this thing. I feel so blessed to be here, especially somebody who grew up and loves the park and loves the industry. I mean, some days it's a little overwhelming. You go home and you're like, I cannot believe that I'm here for this after 19 years of really nothing of this magnitude. From the park, I'll just say that it's a lot of the same. A lot of folks just, I think, feel blessed to be a part of something special. One of the things I noticed too is, I won't say the energy was negative. It's just neutral. And then you see something like this happen, and the amount of electricity and positivity that it inserted into our team and our guest in August was like palatable. Like you'd go out in the park and you could feel and sense the energy, and we could see attendance went up on weekends where it didn't rain. We had a lot of rain here in September and October. When it didn't rain, there was so much energy in the park and out in the community, and the news media is talking us, and coming out here and doing stories, and we're getting to talk to people like you who maybe we haven't had a shot to talk to for one reason or another. So it's been really exciting, and I think for us, it's a special time, and the real I think the real big thing now is when folks get into this park next year is to make sure that they have a good time and that they want to come back in 2025 or again later in 2024. So that's our driving goal, and my motivation is always to provide an atmosphere that's positive and that folks can have fun and relax and unplug from life. And um, I think certainly this will get people back in a park that I feel really passionately is a really good escape from reality.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a park with such rich history. I think the one thing I sort of was thinking about as you were going into that detail was the demon drop sign behind you. I mean,
Oh yeah,
like
still a great
the
ride.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah, to be fair, I never got the chance to do Demon Drop, but I love the heritage of that ride and the type of ride it was, and even just the site in question. Even just before Stinger, we had Laser, the Schwarzkopf double
yeah,
looping coaster between '86 and '06. So
yeah,
it was, there's so much history around this park, and it's so good to see a project like Iron Menace, coming into the park next year.
yeah,
And how much it means to the community as well. And that's the main thing here with the theme parks. It's all about the community, it's all about the guests
yeah,
and how they interact with these new investments and how it impacts their community, which is
yeah.
always the positive thing here.
Absolutely.
Um, Obviously, there is plenty more stuff in the pipelines, I'm sure, for Dorney Park in the future. Is there anything we can talk about in terms of future projects or any discussions taking place?
So we do have a full 10-year plan. I won't go into it in great detail, but we have plans, and a lot of it hinges on the success of the Iron Menace and the success of our team in 2024. And that's why I say it's really important that we make sure that we're putting one foot in front of the other, that we focus on this next goal, that we focus on the successful launch of Iron Menace. And then I think we can really look ahead to 2025 and 2026 and 2027. Certainly, I think Cedar Fair feels the same way. Let's see how 2024 goes. We feel extremely optimistic about it. But once again, you don't really know how things are going to go until you get in the thick of it. I will say, just from a planning standpoint, beyond the ride, and I know I've mentioned this, but we have so much more beyond Menace just for next year that we need to execute. We're replacing the control system on Steel Force, which is an extremely large project. They're already started on that. We sent our trains back out for Thunderhawk to Philly Toboggan. We're always making upgrades in the water park, and then building out this steel yard, and what does that look like, and working with our entertainment team and our tremendous creative force here at Dorney Park, whether that's our graphic services team or our carpenters or our maintenance team, to construct and design a brand new merchandise location or new dining, or reworking and retheming Cedar Creek Flyers. There's a lot of stuff that we're looking at. Also got a bathroom down there that we want to renovate and change. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to make sure we get done for 2024, and have a successful 2024, and then we can really start dreaming, I think, even bigger as we move forward into the future. So that's the goal.
Absolutely. So for the end of this sort of interview, I want to sort of have a bit of fun with you here. So
That's fine.
obviously there is tons of manufacturers out there for different attractions, not just roller coasters, but different attractions. We know that Matt Ride's been producing some fantastic concepts. We know that Vekoma has stepped up their game over the last few years. We know that RMC has just been firing projects left, right, and centre. Is there any manufacturers, I mean, for Dorney Park or for the Cedar Fair chain, is there any manufacturer in the future that would work fantastically well in this park? Do you think there's any particular concepts that you're very interested in and want to bring to this park?
I know people always want us to say RMC because there's this unique desire to bring RMC in, and to either recreate Hercules and or dramatically change Thunderhawk. But I will say there are no plans to do either of those things.
Yeah.
Thunderhawk is going on its 100th birthday here, and Hercules. There's not much left there. There's just some footers. But I think any time, and I won't even put it on a manufacturer, but I think any time that we could breathe life back into maybe something, even like a Journey to the Center of the Earth, like a dark ride, right? Anytime we could bring something back that would help people kind of tap into a core memory. I know Zamperla is a good partner with Cedar Fair, right? They have plenty of cool rides, and we've talked a lot about bringing in new and exciting flat rides as well? Do we do something like Canada's Wonderland where you get a family roller coaster, or Kings Island, right? There's all kinds of things that I think we're looking at that could enhance the experience. Do we do something really dynamic in the water park? That would be like an action ride, an action river. I mean, I think everything's on the table. And certainly we think a lot of manufacturers across the globe provide a lot of cool and unique experiences. But I think the biggest one that I get on a constant basis is like, hey, when are you gonna make dynamic changes to Thunderhawk, or what would you do to kind of bring something that's dynamic
Yeah.
to Hercules? And I think a lot of that pressure is born out of Wildcats Revenge. Our competitor Hershey Park, they've done really really well with that ride this year, and so I think that's generated a lot of regional excitement for what the folks at RMC can do. So there's a lot of different things that I think we could look at. We've got a lot of space, despite some conventional wisdom that we don't. We have a lot of space here to work with, and so uh, we have a large property, and so I think it'll be interesting to see where we go. But once again, just gotta nail Iron Menace first, and then you can start focusing on. It's like a football player. You gotta get the next game done, and then you can focus on the next one.
Absolutely. Like I say, you're talking about dark rides there. We had a fantastic dark ride here in the UK back in 2021 from Garmondale, based in the UK, Gangster Granny the Ride at Alton Towers. That was just a fantastic family dark ride when it
Yeah.
opened. So even just something like that with a Journey to the Center of the Earth bring back would just, like you said, tap into core memories for guests at Dorney Park.
Yep.
Obviously, we spoke about those core memories and we spoke about those past attractions. Are there any attractions? Obviously, we know that certain attractions have a maintenance life cycle. We know that certain attractions have a certain cycle where they go up to a certain point.
Yep.
Certain things have to happen to keep it going. If it's not feasible or financially possible, we have to look at removing that ride.
Yep.
Are there any rides that you could maybe say that's in a situation where you have a certain amount of years maybe to have a go at riding it, if possible?
Nothing right now. I think the biggest one prior to last year would have been Possessed, but we actually feel really good about where it is. We were able to kind of Frankenstein patch it all back together, utilizing some of what Wicked Twister left us behind from Cedar Point, and so we feel really good about that ride. The Zephyr is going to get new life, getting retracked. It's going to run through the station of Iron Menace, which is really exciting. We have been working to retrack portions of Thunderhawk every year. We've been sending the trains out to Philly Toboggan over the last 2 years. And so I think the rides that maybe a couple years ago folks would have been concerned about, we have taken measured steps to ensure that, we can keep them sustained and running. Steel Force is another example of just having a dated control system. And we're taking the money and time this off season to make sure that that one stays. So there's, I think, a lot of inner workings every year, but no, nothing right now that it's certainly, I'm pretty good about letting people know as kind of an enthusiast at heart myself. I like to let people know when it's their last chance to ride, etc. But no, nothing right now. We we had to remove the monster, which I don't think is anything we anticipated initially. Because we had to get in some heavy machinery and we needed a footprint to do it for the Iron Menace construction, and to do some track work on the Zephyr as well as do things for Iron Menace. And so we had to reposition it, which we knew we were going to have to do in the off season anyway, because we're expanding some dining down there, and I hope to have something really exciting maybe soon here with an announcement. But when we removed it, we had to remove it a little earlier than we wanted. We had initially, wanted to put out like, hey, get your last rides on Monster for the year. Now we don't even know if we're bringing it back for 2024 just because of some of the dynamic changes in the park. So there's one that if you got me a couple months ago, I would have said, hey, maybe come out and get a ride on the Monster. But hindsight is 2020. So, but I would say everything else for now is safe. I mean, especially the rides that people have really grown to know and love, and the whip too. We did a huge renovation on the whip in I want to say 2022. We had to redo a large portion of the roof and a lot of the queue area, but it's good. I think that's one thing I love about Dorney is we're really committed to preserving our history, whereas I think other parks, it's just so easy to gut it and get rid of it and put in something or leave the footprint open until you can afford something new, right? And we're not we try not to do that. We've got a huge collection of rides, and we try to keep it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, the Whip's such a classic ride. I wish I had the chance to do the one back in the day at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, but we had the Whip and the Junior Whip, and I never got the
Uh,
chance to do both of them.
well, you just got
Um,
to get here then. That's what that means. So that way you could ride the web.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the trip booked. Um, Final question then. I guess it's kind of a sentimental one in a way. What is your greatest memory or your greatest part of being part of Dorney Park? Because we know we've spoken all throughout this video about Dorney Park providing these core memories and providing the
Yeah.
community with a place to go to have fun, enjoy your day, escape from troubles, everything like that. What is the greatest part about being part of this park, being part of Cedar Fair as a company, and being the greatest memory of being part of Dorney Park as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I love the most about Dorney and Cedar Fair is that at the heart of it, our job is to create a space where families, friends, loved ones, people can make memories and have fun. And if you keep that in mind, it really can lead to a light atmosphere in the workplace too, where we're emboldened to have fun and be creative. And I saw that come to life during the teaser campaign for the Iron Menace, where my team and I really worked hard to create a almost like a cinematic experience for folks that was very well thought out and was scheduled and deliberate, and it had a clear goal in mind to get people to this big announcement. And then we did the same thing again with Ghost in the Machine. So to be part of that to me was just indicative of what the spirit of the park is, where it's like no matter what, the goal is to create these memories and this fun, and to be able to do it in a space of medium or media is really special. So I think as an employee, that is something that I'm really going to remember. I got to ride Talon with James McAvoy this year too, and I don't think I'll ever forget that. He's a famous actor for those that don't know, and um, that was really special too. So to share, a memory with someone that I never thought I'd even get the chance to meet is special about Dorney Park. And I think a lot of us just have that have grown around this park, whether you work here or you just visit, will even have just silly little memories of like the first time, you won a game out on the Midway, or the first time that you were able to ride your first big boy big girl coaster like Steel Force. And so I think all those things contribute to this love and reverence we have for the park, which I said at the end of the day, it's about feeling like you're at home. And when I come to work a lot, I just kind of feel like it's going, like I said, going to grandma's house. It's like you feel this sense of belonging, and you feel this sense of purpose and desire to do your best because it's something you love and you're really passionate about. So to me, I think those are kind of channeling my own personal memories, and I think we all collectively do that very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I share that. I share that 100%. Working as a ride operator this summer at Gulliver's Valley in Rotherham, I just felt that same kind of principle of feeling at home at the park. So Ryan, thank you very, very much
You're
for
welcome.
appearing on the channel. It's been a huge, huge pleasure, and I really hope we can get down there to cover the media day, press day, or an opening day for Iron Menace for Chall Chats.
Yeah, man, you got an invite from me, so if you can stomach the flight and figure it all out, then yeah, you got a seat on Iron Menace whenever you need it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank
Well.
you guys for watching. Thank you very much. I am the CHALL. Ta for now.